Maybe you're sitting there looking at your phone, looking at your computer screen and wondering, what is it actually like to live in Kansas City? What are the best parts? What are the worst parts? I need to know everything. Well, good news, that's why I'm here. Hi, I'm Rach the Realtor, here giving you the scoop on all things Kansas City. And today's a big one. We are going through my personal ultimate pros and cons list of the best things and the worst things about life in KC. For locals, there are definitely some hot takes on this list, so stay tuned. Let's jump right in. Okay, number one, this is a big one. My first biggest pro to living in Kansas City is the cost of living. I'm not going to go into too much detail here. I did that in a previous video. Go ahead and watch my cost of living in Kansas City video for more nitty-gritty information. But just to speak in generalities, Kansas City is a very affordable place to live. It's really reasonable to think you could afford a nice house, a nice lifestyle. Your dollar stretches roughly twice as far in Kansas City as it would in, say, LA, for example. So the cost of living in Kansas City is a huge, huge pro because you're not just a prisoner to your mortgage or your rent here. So pro number one, cost of living. Okay, your first con. Why is cost of living relatively low? Well, it's because not everyone on the planet is trying to live here, and there's a reason for that. And one of those reasons is the lack of outdoor activities. Kansas City is in the heartland, in the Midwest. We do not have mountains. We do not have beaches. We do have some lakes, but not great ones right in the heart of Kansas City. So the lack of outdoor activities is a big one. In fact, personally, the people that I know that have actually moved away from Kansas City for reasons besides like work and family, is to seek out outdoor activities. Kansas City is just not a place with a lot of hiking. You can create outdoor activities if you want. Of course, you can like get a paddleboard and go paddleboard on the lakes and stuff, but it's a big con. There's not a lot of like hiking, biking, running, all of the things that people move to some of the other hot spots around the country for. So that is our first con, is the lack of outdoor activities. A huge pro to living in Kansas City is good old Midwest culture. People are so nice and so friendly. When I travel outside of Kansas City in the Midwest, I forget that it's not normal just to like smile and ask someone how their day is when you're next to them in the line at the post office or whatever. People are so friendly here. It's a pretty laid back culture. For the most part, people don't think they're overly important and are overly full of themselves. The culture here is also great because, like I mentioned in the last con, we don't have mountains and beaches, so people take a lot of pride in what we do have. Our sports culture is phenomenal. If you are a sports fan, this is the place to be. Chiefs, Royals, Sporting KC, we have all kinds of lower level hockey and baseball. College basketball, we are like a mecca for college basketball. Sports is so fun here. Tailgating is legit. It is a ton of fun. Beyond that, we have all kinds of like parades and organizations and artsy areas of town. So the culture here is actually really good because we don't have like a mountain to hang our hat on. We have the people. So in Kansas City, the culture is a huge pro to living here. All right, this is a big con, a big negative to living in Kansas City. And I'm going to just say weather, but what I'm really talking specifically about is late winter. I went on a pretty big rant about the month of February in one of my previous videos. If you watch the worst things about living in Kansas City, you will hear that there. But honestly, it's like by the end of winter, it is rough here. You are just so gloomy. It's overcast. You are sick of the cold. You're just desperate for spring. So that is a huge con. That is why a lot of retirees in Kansas City snowbird. They winter somewhere else. They go to somewhere south, somewhere warm for like the months of January and February at a minimum. So that's a big con, but I'm going to transition this into a pro. For me, the net weather is a pro, or the net outcome of weather is a pro, and that is because overall, even though February and January really suck, overall, Kansas City has relatively mild weather. We have an average annual temperature of 57 degrees, an average of 55 inches of rainfall, so things are really green and pretty lush here, but not like you feel like you're getting rained out all the time. And Kansas City has 62% of the year the sun is shining. And that's about the same as Miami, Florida. Miami, Florida is only at 68%. So that's pretty darn good. I found a website called zebra.com that ranks Kansas City as the best city in the Midwest for weather. So even though February and like late winter is a huge con, overall, the weather here is a pro because it's pretty mild. You can be outside most of the year. There are a couple of months that you just can't. So con, late winter, pro, the rest of the year's weather. Another con is our lack of public transportation. This is not a city that you can come to and hop on the train and go from one part to another, or, you know, think you can just get around without a car. You almost have to have a personal vehicle if you live in Kansas City, and that is a pretty big con to living here. It can be a financial obstacle. In some ways it can be a good thing because maybe it's cheaper to have a beater car than pay for a hypothetical subway pass, but for most people this is a con. You have to think through a lot of logistics for a night out on the town. It's not like an easy way to get around. We do have a streetcar. It runs about 2 miles, so it's not like you can plan a whole tour of the city on that, but it's a nice little bonus. So the flip side of that con is the pro, which is that Kansas City is super drivable and doesn't have a ton of traffic. So you can hop in your car and get pretty much anywhere in the city within 30, 40 minutes max. There are a couple of spots that get rough during rush hour, but for the most part, there's not a ton of traffic. So that's a pro, very drivable, not a ton of traffic. A con, I've posted about this before, I've talked about this before, and people always get defensive, but I think our Kansas City airport is a con. It is dated, it is pretty far up north, which is convenient if you live north, but for most people in Kansas City, it's very inconvenient to get to. It's crowded, it's small, it is convenient, like you can get in and out quickly, but it is just a mess. So the airport kind of sucks, but we are getting a new airport. I think last time I looked, it's scheduled to be done like 2023, 2024 in there somewhere. So it's not like it's 20 years out. In the near future, we're going to get a new airport, but that won't change the location. I know a lot of cities don't have their airports right downtown, but it just feels like it's so inconvenient to be all the way north of the city. So that's a con for me. On the flip side, a pro of living in Kansas City is that the flights are relatively short. So you can get pretty much anywhere in the continental US in 3 hours or less by plane. Flights are relatively affordable. There's lots of direct flights kind of all over the country. So traveling out of Kansas City, even though the airport is a pain in your side, is a bonus to living here. And that takes me back to the top to our first pro, which is cost of living, because hopefully you have that little extra money in your budget to afford to travel like you want to, or do whatever it is that you want to do with your free time. So that's it. That is my ultimate list of pros and cons of living in Kansas City. I know I missed some. So comment, shoot me an email, let me know what I missed. I can't wait to hear from you. Until next time, Rach the Realtor here, giving you the scoop on all things Kansas City.